Hey everybody, so real quick, a few days ago I did a video, I posted something and said I would do a video to expound it later. What I posted was basically saying that the coronavirus hype is connected to the mark of the beast, or it's a setup to introduce the mark of the beast. Let me explain that real quick, and I'll do a more in-depth video later. But three words you need to really pay attention to: panic, policy, and peace. If you can get put into a state of panic, you will agree with whatever policy offers you peace. This is why the first thing God usually says when he shows up, or when the angels show up, is fear not. So I'm here to tell you today, fear not, so that you can see clearly. Now, a few weeks back, when this uh, coronavirus first started, I didn't know anything really about it. I wasn't caring anything about it. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just doing my job and going to work and everything. But the Lord kept grabbing my attention and trying to show me something. And I was like, what? And he was showing me like something about the mark of the beast. And I was like, I don't get it. What is this? Why are you dealing with me about this? This ain't what I want to study. I want to study about that. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to deal with this. But it kept coming to me and I couldn't shake it. And then all of a sudden, it was like he started giving me more and showing me that there's some kind of connection between the coronavirus and the mark of the beast. This was when it was not even that big of news, okay? This was back 6 weeks ago when it was just in China. So I started thinking, oh, well, it must be the Chinese people. You know, they have the red dragon, they're communists, they don't really like Christians, they're cashless in a lot of their big cities, they don't even use cash. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's China, they're getting ready to do something, make some kind of move, maybe. I don't know. You know, I'm started thinking like, but then it kept coming to me and I was like, I didn't want to think about it. I pushed it away and then it kept coming and I was like, okay, what is this, Lord? So I started praying and I started looking at the word, and then I got some insight from the word, and I want to share that with you. I'm gonna say this though. Hear me all the way out before you make any jump to any conclusions. If you're gonna listen to this, please listen all the way through. It's gonna be short, but I'll do a more in-depth video later. Okay, this is the short version. So I said three words: panic, policy, and peace. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25, it says, and by his policy he will cause craft to prosper in his hands. And then it says he will magnify himself in his heart and even stand up against the prince of princes. Okay, so what does that mean? Oh, well, I left a part off. The last part of that verse says, it says, and and through peace he will destroy many. Right? So it says, by his policy he will cause craft to prosper in his hand. Policy, in English, the word policy came from a Greek word polis. It's the same word we get political, politic, politician, police. All those words come from the same Greek word. And it's funny because about 5 months ago, that thought just kept spinning over my head. Policy, policy, political, police. They're all the same, right? It just kept coming to my mind, but I didn't think nothing of it. Like, why is this coming to me? Now I know why. Okay, so I began to study that. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. Okay, what does it say? By his policy, he will cause craft to prosper in his hand. What is craft? That word craft, like when you say someone is crafty, meaning they're slick, they're sneaky, they're deceitful. That word craft means deceit. So policy really can deal with political. Craft can deal with deception, political deception. Do you see that? Political deception. So I looked those words up in the actual Hebrew, because the original Old Testament was written in Hebrew, not Greek. Okay, but then it was translated into English. And then you study the words in English to see what they mean and where they came from, because every English word has a origin, right? So you take and find the origin, and that's where the Greek came in. But the actual Hebrew of those words there um, is where I got this from. So political deception is what Daniel 8 and 25 is talking about. Political deception. But then you go down to the last part of that verse. It says, and by peace he will destroy many. By peace. Not by war, not by brute force per se, but by peace. So smooth deception about peace to destroy you. That's what this is telling us, right? Just in a nutshell, if you were to summarize it. Okay? Don't harp over the exact wording here, you know, don't stumble over semantics, but look at what the overall thought that is being conveyed here. political deception and destruction by peace. How can you destroy by peace? Policy. I was somewhere the other day and I was trying to pay for a slice of pizza, and they gave me my cash back and said we can't take this. I said why? I said, it's our policy. So when you think about that word policy, how we use it most of the time, it's rules, mandates. It's, coming down from a higher authority, and everybody has to adhere to a policy. That's when you think about the word policy, right? So political deception and destruction by peace. But that word peace, when I looked it up in the original language and began to study that word, do a word study, that word peace also can be translated as in their prosperity. Okay. So what does it have to do with the coronavirus and the mark of the beast? Well, you go to Revelation chapter 13, verse number 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man can buy and sell, except he that have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay. So most of the time when you think about the mark of the beast, first thing would come to mind is 666, the number, right? But it didn't say he caused everybody to get that number. It says he caused everybody to receive a mark. It says he calls us all to receive a mark. So see how it's connected to policy? Okay. And deception? It says he calls it all to receive. Causeth means manipulate. Receive is something your will is involved. You accept because you've been manipulated. So political deception to manipulate you because there's some ideal of peace, but you don't see the destruction at the end. Remember Jesus, Paul wrote and said, when they say peace and safety and then sudden destruction comes. So you see the correlation between peace and destruction. He will destroy many by peace, or by peace he will destroy many when they say peace and safety and then sudden destruction. See the connection there, right? In the word. I'm just sticking to the Bible. Okay, so now you go to Revelation chapter 13, and it says, he calls us all to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Not on, in. So you won't see it per se. You won't necessarily see some big 3 6s written on people's hands and foreheads. That's not how it's going to play out. It's going to be in them. Well, you do know that vaccines, certain ones, they do leave a mark, okay, a permanent mark. I'm not saying the coronavirus vaccine is the mark of the beast, so don't run with this, okay? Just hear me out. If you didn't hear me say it, then I didn't say it, okay? But I'm trying to get you thinking. So, notice it did not say he causes them all to receive the number of his name or his name. It said he causes all to receive a mark. We know some are going to have the number or the name because it says they can't buy or sell unless they have the mark or. So, okay, you don't want this mark? Well, just do this. You don't want that? Well, just do that. So he's going to give different options. That's how the devil is. He gives you different options. There's 3 listed. We know when he tempted Jesus, he tempted him 3 times, right? So there's three options listed there. But the main one is the thing that it says he's going to cause all the people to have. But then you know everybody ain't going to be with that, so he's going to give them 2 more options. Okay, some people gonna look at that and say, "Nah, this ain't right. Something ain't right about this." But it's about policy, right? Political deception. If you go to a church and they're becoming increasingly political, you need to be very careful because the Spirit of God is not dealing with the politics of man on that level. He's dealing with getting you to understand His kingdom. He said, "My kingdom's not of this world." So the politics, if it's so political and they're more into a political agenda, you want to shy away from that, okay? You want to begin to pray and ask God to open your eyes because He said, take heed that no man deceive you, okay? Um, and pray for the people because it's a spirit moving, that political spirit, okay? Because that's how the enemy's moving through policy. All right, watch this. So, what was I saying? Okay, so you got your Revelation 13 says that cause all to receive a mark. Now, you do know vaccines can leave a mark, okay? What's going on in the world right now? economies, global trade, global travel, stock market, people out of work, people being quarantined at national levels, travel bans at continental levels. Can't go to the whole continent of Europe right now. The NBA shut down. They're shutting down schools for months here, making everybody stay at home and do their work at home. A lot of jobs are people are not able to work. The stock market at one point was plummeting and then halted. I don't know where it's at right now because I'm not watching all of that stuff. We know all of this. God can heal the land and turn it around in a matter of seconds, right? He can do anything. But what I'm saying is we need to be aware because this type of situation, how fast this escalated in what 6 weeks, the whole world is affected by this disease. And I don't believe the disease is that dangerous. The virus is that dangerous just because I've read the facts on it. Okay, you have a better chance of dying of the common flu or polio right now than coronavirus. Yet the media storm is hyping it up. And by the way, we're dropping bombs on Iran and Iraq this week, but you don't really hear about all that. But the media is hyping it up. It's election time, and all they're talking about is coronavirus, making everybody stay in the house. Making people close their businesses early. So you see this political power being exercised, but it's not being in brute force. It's subtle. It's subliminal. It's sneaky. It's trickery. It's craft. Y'all see what I'm saying? So this may not be the actual move where they implement the policy to get everybody to take a mark, but this is how it will play out. Maybe not through a fear of pandemic, maybe some other type of thing. But just looking at it logically, this would be the easiest way because this is something that they've shown it to you 24 hours a day on the news that it's affecting the whole world. Now we can't go to certain continents for 30 days. So now that's restrictions on privileges we once had. Now you don't think people are affected by it mentally and psychologically? Go to your store and see how if you can find some toilet paper or some hand sanitizer. They're going in there and buying that stuff up and hoarding it, bottled waters, because of the spirit of fear and the panic that they put out. Because I'll go into more details about all this later, but you see how that's happening. That's political power through media manipulation. Now, yes, the virus is real. We don't need to take it lightly. We need to not take it lightly and nonchalantly like it doesn't matter, because it can affect some people to the point of death. But for the most part, it's highly survivable. There are diseases that are way higher on the list of deadly than the coronavirus. I'm speaking facts. You can look this stuff up and download the data packet and see this. So why are they exaggerating it so much? Because that's what is promoting the fear, and the fear is causing the movement. Just like when a lion roars, the Bible says your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion. Well, when a lion roars, it makes a herd scatter and run. But what they don't know is there's a couple more lions already anticipating that run that are going to capture you when you run. So what I'm saying is this: just as easy as the enemy has manipulated large groups of people at this point in time, he could easily, if God allows, easily cause policy for everybody to be mandated to have a vaccine. Vaccines aren't necessarily bad, right? In principle, they're good. But what you have to realize is you don't know what's in them. And we know that when they stick you with them, they can leave a mark. So what if they say, well, they're telling everybody right now to stay indoors, right? They shut down Times Square 2 days ago in New York, the largest city in our country. One of the most traveled parts of that city shut down. All the lights been turned out. And what if they, this is a serious time, right? What if they were to say, well, people can't get back to work until we know everybody's safe? Well, let's mandate some type of vaccine. Obviously, they're almost a year behind on getting a vaccine developed, is what they're telling us. So it doesn't look like the vaccine's coming that quick. Nevertheless, the point I'm making here is how this situation could be used. And I believe that's what God wanted me to see and wants us to look at, because if it's not this situation, it'll be another situation similar, to get people acclimated to these type of things, so that by the time it happens, we'll be so panicked that we go along with policy to keep our sense of peace or to regain peace in the time of panic. Because people are panicking because they're clearing the shelves off at the stores. They're panicked. They could say they're not scared, but look at what they're doing. People are scared. So when God shows up, he says, fear not, right? So I'm not saying that the vaccine for this is the mark of the beast, but I'm saying we need to be watchful. We need to be very, very prayerful and spirit-led because, okay, let me tell you this, because there's something you may not be aware of. They have something called Neuralace. Neuralace is a technology that has been developed in recent years by a man named Elon Musk. He pioneered it. Elon Musk is also the guy that um, he's like the CEO of Tesla. He came up with the Tesla cars, right? And those are nice cars. He's a smart guy, but his philosophy and his belief system is dangerous. His belief system is that we need to all become cyborgs. That's what he says it openly, meaning that we as people cannot compete with artificial intelligence unless we become part computer, part robot. So he created this thing called Neuralace. Now, they have a robot that has to insert it into your body because it's such a tedious job. The thing is thinner than a human hair. You can't see it. The Neuralace, they're thinner than a human hair, and they inject it with a needle into your forehead, and it goes into the frontal lobe of your brain, and then it works its way around your brain some kind of way, and it meshes your brain and creates this interface, they call it. Okay, that's Neuralace, and then he's working with the medical industry. You can look this stuff up, research it for yourself. Okay, it's not a secret. It's just not something that's really publicized a lot. Um, they also have phase two of that, which is called Neuralink, which is the same thing, but it's not necessarily for medical. It's for whatever. I don't know what the purpose of it is, but I know it's basically a digital interface that connects to your brain and makes your brain basically a Wi-Fi transmitter receiver. So your brain can literally with this thing communicate with Wi-Fi. What are they doing? The 5G, Internet of Things is the big thing right now, right? So all this is connected. Now this guy, he believes we should be part robot already, right? In order to be smarter than robots or compete. But he also is what you call a transhumanist. And transhumanist people, there's a whole community of them. They believe that through doing that, that's the next phase of human evolution. And they believe when we do that, we transcend into godhood because now we get super intelligence and we can defy death. This is what these people believe, okay? And they have legislation committees already trying to form uh, identities for robots um, and for artificial intelligence. They believe that it's going to get so smart. That's why they call it machine learning. They believe it's going to become sentient, or we're going to reach something called the singularity. It means there's a pinnacle where the intelligence of the machines becomes like human and then superhuman. And so they believe when it gets to that point that we have to become part of that in order to not be left behind, right? Not to become an inferior race of beings on this planet. That's what they believe. So they believe they can create something that can outdo us. And in order to win against it, we've got to become part cyborg, basically. Now, the danger in that is, well, it's all dangerous, right? Just nothing about that sounds right. But this is what they believe. They also believe we achieve godhood because we can do so many different things. Okay, these people are already forming legislation and debating. Well, should these artificial intelligence have rights? Are they, if it's intelligent like a human and it thinks, is it a citizen? Should it be a citizen? Da 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 da. So they're really already dealing with these things, which Goes into Revelation chapter 13. Now, the reason I brought that up is this. Neuralink and Neuralace has already been made. I'm sure they're trying to improve on it in different things, but it's so small you can't really see it. And this guy, they're saying he's going to be the first trillionaire. He's already a billionaire. So why would they think he's going to become that rich? Are they planning on doing something huge with this Neuralink that he made? Could they put that in a vaccine? Would you know it if it was in there? And they said, just give us your right hand. Let us prick your finger. And now in your right hand, you got something, and you thought, well, I can go back to work now because I got a clean bill of health. I'm no longer uh, able to get the coronavirus because it says political deception. Now, this guy apparently has a lot of political sway because the government gave him some, rights to compete with NASA. He also has a space program. This guy, Elon Musk, he has a space program. He also was instrumental in creating in turning cash into digital currencies. Right? He was the CEO for many years of PayPal, which was one of the main pioneering companies that we know of that got people used to digital payment systems. So this guy's connected to all this stuff that's eerily, uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Related to, it's so eerie that it's all related to technologies that can fulfill the mark of the beast prophecies, right? This guy. And they're saying he's going to be the first man to be a trillionaire. And he just happened to create something that gets injected into your forehead that can turn people into a, a cyborg, basically. Now, all that, knowing all that, and this is stuff you can look up. It's not even hidden. You ain't got to go to some off-brand website to find this. Just look it up, and you can hear him talk about it himself. I've seen him talk about it. So this is not something they're saying about the guy. He's saying it himself. They're really developing this stuff. We've been looking at the microchips and tattoos and all that, thinking about the mark of the beast, and all that's just doing is getting people ready for it. If not, partly part of it, like tattoos, just getting you used to being pricked, marked, right? But the microchip probably is the number of the beast, okay? Because it's a digital system. Digit means number. So, but we have not really looked at what could they, what would be feasible to get everybody, small, great, rich, poor, free or bond, is what the scriptures say. What would be the most feasible way? I mean, if everybody's panicking over a pandemic, a policy to give them a clean bill of health and then they can go back to work and buy and sell would probably be a vaccine. Now, I'm not saying this is what's happening right now or gonna happen because like I said, I don't know everything. We see in part, we prophesy in part. God knows the whole. But I'm saying we need to be thinking about this and really paying attention because it it says through his policy, he's going to cause craft or deceit to prosper in his hand. And then it says he's going to magnify himself and be against God and all that stuff. And then it says he's going to destroy many through peace. So right now, the way things are escalating, it could get worse, right? People are going to want peace if it does get worse, right? And then I'll say this last thing. Jesus said there's people in the earth that are the synagogue of Satan, but they don't tell you the Satan worshipers. What do they tell you they are? He says I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews but do lie, and they are the synagogue of Satan. Well, anytime somebody really tries to deal with that right there, they get blackballed, they get called crazy and anti-Semitic. But Jesus said it. Mel Gibson tried to say something about the Jews, the people that call themselves Jews, whatever. And you see what happened to him. Hollywood blackballed him and made him look crazy and everything else. But now you start thinking about, wait, the Bible actually says there's some people that claim to be Jews and ain't. So you got wicked people who are the servants of Satan Then you got to understand, okay, if those people really exist, they have to exist. Jesus said they exist. If they really exist, who are they, where they at, and what they doing? Then you start looking at, okay, why is it that 24 hours a day right now, the news is just coronavirus, coronavirus, coronavirus. Why ain't they talking about this war we over here in Iraq and Iran starting? Why ain't they talking about that? And then you find out, well, because the news media corporations have a conglomerate corporation over them with a few bosses, and they have guidelines of certain narratives they have to push. Then you start realizing why Trump been saying fake news. Not all news is fake. I'm saying they got their job to do. The news reporters got their job to do, but they got to work within the constraints given to them from their higher ups. Then you start to wondering, okay, synagogue of Satan, fake Jews. Jesus said it. It has to be true. It ain't no made up stuff. These are really people in the earth. And if they are evil and deceitful, like Jesus said, don't the Bible tell us somewhere in the book of Timothy that evil men and imposters will get worse and worse? So even though the world might look like it's getting better, it might be getting worse, right? Should be, because the Bible says it will. So we looking at the externals thinking it's better, but it's really worse, meaning they're now more deceitful. So they could come through with some policy and make you think, if they make you think they Jews and they something else, they can make you think a vaccine is a vaccine and it be something else. And you accept it. Because it says he causes all to receive a mark. And so when it says all, small and great, rich, poor, free and bond, that means all the people in the world. But it's also letting you know in Daniel, political deception. So it could move so smoothly that all these people thinking they just getting the vaccine and they getting the mark of the beast. It could be. I ain't saying it is. I'm saying it could be. Now, the fact that God showed me there's a connection between this coronavirus situation and the mark of the beast doesn't mean that this virus and its vaccine that follows subsequently will be the mark of the beast. But it does mean this is the type of situation we need to be on guard for, because this is the type of way it will be rolled out through policy and legislation. And now you know that the technology already exists for them to put neural lace in people's heads and make their brains connect to 5G or Wi-Fi. You already know these people want us to be cyborgs and they want to be gods. You already know these people believing in these rich, powerful people. You already know this, and they have meetings. You do know they have the Bilderberg group and different groups where all these billionaires and rich families and people come together and meet. What are they talking about? We don't know, but they all meet together. So this is not conspiracy theory. I'm showing it to you in your Bible, and I'm telling you God is showing me something is going on, and he that have an ear to hear needs to hear. And we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to be panicking, because God said, "Fear not, for I am with you always, even to the end of the world." The first time I met Jesus in person, that was what he told me. Fear not, for I'm with you always, even to the end of the world. So even though we're in the end times and things are getting ready to wrap up, he's still with us. So all we have to do is follow him, and he got us, man. He got us. I don't care what is going on. We don't have to accept their policies for their peace when we have the Prince of Peace. All we have to do is do what he says. He'll take care of us some way or another, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. He'll make your enemies do right by you if he wants to feed you. So if it gets bad enough, God will take care of us even in unconventional ways. We just have to really believe that, okay? But I just wanted to share that with people to get you thinking, not get you fearful, but just get you thinking before you go and take some vaccine. Like, first of all, don't you know this thing have a high survivability rate anyway? And all a vaccine does is expose you to the virus, right? Well, if you get the virus, you're already exposed to it. If your body fights it and wins, then you don't need a vaccine, right? But so if they try to make a, a mandate where everybody has to have it, you gotta be like, nah, man, this definitely is too close to the mark of the beast, if not it altogether. Um, but I'm saying this type of situation that we're seeing could, the scenario I described, could follow it. If it doesn't, thank God, we have more time, and that's a good thing. If it doesn't happen that way, if it does happen that way, then you've been warned and instructed already in advance, right? I'd rather be wrong. I'd rather be wrong and you think I'm crazy and say something than to be right and hold my peace and don't say nothing. And then a lot of people could have avoided this and don't because of me, and now I got blood on my hands for all eternity. I can't do it, so I'm releasing this, because it may not even be this situation. This could be the fire drill, but there may be a fire similar coming in the future just like this, and it'll happen like that, and you'll recall, hey, I remember a dude said they was going to do something like this with a vaccine or something like that, you know. Especially, it may not happen now because they might need more time to perfect their little technologies or whatnot. Not only that, it may not happen now because even though the devil wants to bring in political deception and destroy people through peace, he cannot do anything unless God gives him a green light. So that's the beautiful thing, and that's why we don't have to be afraid, because God is in control. The devil has an agenda, but he also has a boss. So he has to get permission from God to do what he wants to do. And when God is ready for it to happen, he will allow it. The Bible says that God sends strong delusion to the people who don't believe the truth. It says that in Second Thessalonians. So the deception that's coming will be the devil doing God's dirty work, per se. So in other words, they don't want the truth. All right, I'm not gonna lie. It's impossible for me to lie, but I'm gonna release this liar that can't wait to deceive you, and I'm kind of showing you what the lie gonna look like in a sense, because we've been looking at one thing and not the other. So be on guard. And don't just take what I'm saying, but go back and study the word, because I'm a human being. I don't have all the knowledge. I don't know all things. I do know God was showing me there's a connection, and I do believe that the insight I have is on point and it can help people. But at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit is your guide. Follow him. Make sure you know him. Make sure he's really helping you, showing you the scriptures and what they really mean, so you don't have my interpretation or nobody else's, but his. Okay, so that when it all goes down and you got to choose between God and another, you will choose God, and you'll know him to know that it's him you chose for yourself. Okay, I love you all. God bless you. I'll go in more detail in the next video about uh, panic, policy, and peace, because I'm going to dig deeper into those things and show you a little bit more. Okay, but just understand that we live in a time where these things are possible. The technology is already existing. I know they're trying to make everybody cashless, and I believe that's going to be one of the things that, as a result, a long-term result of this commotion that we've seen with this coronavirus and all the hype attached to it. I honestly believe that's where this is pushing for, and it's cashlessness, so that when they roll out the next big thing, they can easily